Alrighty, we are live on the T. Let's see, are we live? Yep, we are live on the red play button. All right, let's talk about what is going on with the Duggars and how that has anything to do and everything to do with IBLP. I am an IBLP cult survivor. I was in the cult from 1997 to about 2015. Um, how is everyone doing today? It's been a day and a couple of news. If you have any questions for me, let me know. Questions about the cult, questions about what's going on with the Duggars, whatever. Mm. I know that there has been quite a few new people who have followed me lately and may not know my backstory. So, because of everything that's going on with the Duggars, and it seems like news keeps coming out every couple hours, that I thought I'd get up on here and thank you. Hey, Ashley, love you. And we can talk about it because there is a lot to talk about when it comes to the cult and how that has created where we're at today. And a lot of people seem to be missing the biggest point of the connection being the cult. Um, Linda said, I attended the seminars as a teen. I wasn't in the whole thing, but my parents' church was in it big. Yeah. Um, I got in at the tender age of just 18, and then I went into the Air Force, and then I worked at headquarters when I got out of the Air Force for a couple of months. And that was an eye-opening experience. So I guess y'all can hear me well on TikTok. I don't have to check that. So I just saw something. I was checking TikTok right before I jumped on here and said, let me just do a live because not everybody knows my story, and we've gotten quite a few new followers, and you know, I just keep seeing a lot in comments about, blaming everything but the cult. Like nobody is talking about how the cult is part of this equation, and it's like really upsetting me. They're like, it's Jim Bob. I'm like, it's the fucking cult. Like, I'm not saying it's not Jim Bob, but it's the fucking cult. Oh, thank you so much. Someone said, I appreciate hearing my, my perspective. They appreciate hearing my perspective. Whatever. I kind of like didn't plan this and was like, let me just get on. So I was hearing that CPS is investigating the whole compound. They're like out there investigating it. I don't know. Um, Trying to find anything new. Oh, you know what it was? It was a TikTok, and she has people that are close to the family, so it may not be reported in the news yet. Oh goodness, my on YouTube. I apologize if my internet drops in and out. I'm in rural Louisiana, our internet sucks. We have one internet carrier. I don't have any other options, and I have it connected to the LAN, but it still drops out from once in a while. So bear with me. If I disappear, I will come back. I promise. Um, Gems, she, internet dropping out again. There's no setting her free from being involved in it. She's as thick as thieves with them. Child endangerment and false imprisonment. That's what she was charged with, and I think they both were charged with those charges. My hair is kinda going wild today. Mm, somebody got filtered on the tea. You need to, modify your comment to get it through. Um, and I do not think that you can look at these events without looking through the lens of the cult, and people who were not involved in it and don't have any understanding of how everything that is happening is connected, they're missing a huge piece of the puzzle. And that's I hate talking about the Duggars. Um, she had stopped hanging out with his family and wouldn't allow them to babysit her kids, but that doesn't mean that she wasn't doing stuff on her own. Like and like I said in one of my videos, like when I announced that she was arrested, the push for people in this cult, for women in this cult to obey their husbands to the point of ABUSC of their children is is extreme. And it happened to me. And you know, two of my children are adults. The youngest did not experience as much of any of that because I left when he was 4 months old. Um, what if it means it's cuz is involved in a divorce, maybe the option to get her kids back and okay, what if CPS is involved in a divorce? So it just depends on how involved she was in allowing. I mean, even if you allow it and you don't try to stop these things, you are culpable in the eyes of the law. It does not matter if you did not physically do it yourself. You watch it happen, you're just as culpable. And I don't think she should get a free pass just because she's a submissive wife. You know, if I had done anything to my children to harm them in a way that it would have been illegal, I would have had to face the consequences. That's not on like I'm still an adult and I can make those decisions and I can push back. Those children have no choices. Mm. I'm like so heated. My blood pressure is like been abysmal the last couple of days. And that's one of the reasons I don't like talking about this stuff, but it's so hard not to talk about it when it's in the news every day and new things are coming out every single day. And not enough people are talking about how the cult is part of this. And I just think it's so important to have that conversation about how that cult is culpable for what they have produced. They their teachings create both predator and victim. When it got to the point where I was like, I'm no longer comfortable with the level this is starting to escalate. with my children. Like, I couldn't discipline them hard enough to satisfy him. And so even though I would discipline them, they would get disciplined even more. And there was verbal abuse and all of that. And I was like, I cannot, like, one of the things, like, there was like 5 reasons, right? Like, he was a rug user. So, capability of the cold does not excuse abusive and harmful behavior by the perpetrator, who here is Joseph. I don't understand your I don't understand your comment for some reason. I don't know if you fubbed some words or what. Did you mean culpability? Um, and we don't know what part Kendra played yet. And that's the thing. We know more of what Joseph did because Florida has released information that Arkansas has not done, right? And so until we get more details about what part Kendra played in this, I don't think we can assume she's not culpable. Um And so what I was saying was, like, there's 5 reasons that I left. One was he's a rug user, and I had just had a baby, and I found a straw on the counter on the only bathroom that we shared in a house where my 5 and 6-year-old children could have come in and consumed, um, rugs that he was using. He was smashing up prescriptions. Um And like, that was the straw that broke the back, but I had been, thinking, like, my children are being taught how women are being treated. I am teaching my children that this is how women should be treated. Um, I am allowing my children to be verbally abused by this man and physically abused. And the only way to reduce that harm is for me to take them out of the environment as much as possible. So if he was doing things that she was aware of and she did nothing to try and prevent it, she's culpable. Doesn't matter how much the cult has taught you to be submissive, you still have a responsibility as the parent and as the adult to protect your children. Um, I'm a little more receptive for the women because it's so high control. And I usually am too. And I gave her all the benefit of the doubt until I found out what she was arrested for. So they get them trapped with 5, 10, 20 kids and fully dependent on them. Yes, I had 3 kids when I left. My youngest was 4 months old. Now, if it hadn't been for family, I'd have been homeless under a bridge. So I'm thankful for that. And I know not everybody has that, right? Um, but from what I understand, her family are not Duggar fans, and they probably would have taken her in. Like, I don't know 100% sure, but I think of all of the, like, people we know connected with the Duggars, Kendra and her family are the least ones to condone and continue to allow things to happen. Excuse me. I was recording all morning long, so my voice might be a little um strained. And so let's change the focus to Joseph, right? This is what popped all of this off, right? Um People magazine put out an article, and in the report from Florida, he admitted that his intentions were not pure. That goes back to cult teachings, and Sorry, my voice. I'm gonna try and talk lower. If you can't hear me, let me know, and I'll try and get the phone and the mic closer. It goes to purity culture teachings and how you have to captivate every single thought that you have. And the repression that happens from not allowing kids to understand what normal development is and normal curiosity is blurs the lines between adult and child, and they don't understand consent whatsoever. There is no teaching about consent in this cult. Um I apologize for my voice. Um and in the sexualization of children, like they teach that toddlers can tempt men, and they teach you how to dress your toddlers so they're not sexualized. And it's like, why are we not talking about the fact that you should not be sexualizing toddlers and children and minors? Where is that conversation? That never happened in the cult. I didn't even understand consent until after I was married. And I started looking into, like, years after I was married because, the teaching is that wives are supposed to do what their husbands want. No, there's no saying no. And why is that? I have a sticker on there. I need to get rid of that because this is not a good day. Um and I agree with you, Gems, that the women are trapped in a system and they don't have a whole lot of choices, but they still have choices. And there comes a time when you have to look at what you're dealing with and understand that it doesn't matter what the consequences are for you as an adult. The consequences of what is happening to your children far outweigh what could happen to you as an adult. And that's one of the reasons, I could not sit there and allow my children to be treated that way anymore in front of my face. And so I'm not going to, like, make any assumptions about anything that happened other than what's reported. I'm not going to try and draw lines that are not there, and I'm not going to feed into rumor. So I don't do fuckery. I don't do rumors. I don't do unverified reports. Um, the only reason I mentioned that other one because I thought it was in the news, but I realized it was a report of someone who knows somebody close to the Duggars. And so I can't verify that they're actually raiding or looking at the whole compound or whatever. So I won't really talk about that much until it's in the news. So if somebody sees something while we're on live, let me know and I'll look it up. I'm about to grab a cough drop. Pardon me. While I dig for one. Have any? Ah, yes. I have some Ricola. Um, so from what I understand, it's a pretty small town and they have a lot of people who know them and they have a lot of influence. And so it's part of the reason they haven't really had much consequences for everything that's going on is because people value them in the community and their contribution to the community. And just like evangelical Christianity, they cover up things so the consequences aren't as bad, right? Sorry, it's shaking. I apologize. Um, like in Utah, the church controls everything. That's why they stay trapped. They don't have access. It's a little bit like I don't know their particular town and how it all works and how many people are involved in fundamentalism and hey apostate sisters, so good to see you. I don't know how like insular that community is. But even like take me for example, I was in Mississippi and we were in a small town. There was churches everywhere. Like in the South, there's a church on every freaking corner. So I don't really know anything about their church, like if it's a mega church or anything. Like I literally know as little as possible about the Duggars that I can get away with. Um, and so um Jill and Ginger had to move away to get out from under them. I mean, their influence is probably large, and the people that know them and are connected to them and protect them are probably large. So getting out of that town is probably your best bet to get freedom. But when you're talking about Kendra and her family, it doesn't seem like they were in the connected part of that. So it looks like it, from my point of view, my assumption is she would have had a way out. But I'm assuming, and maybe she didn't, I don't know how young her youngest is, but making a life-changing decision when you have an infant is very hard. I did it with 3. I had a 5, a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 4-month-old, and I left. So, I stayed longer than I should have because of the teaching of no divorce and because I had no resources. I had no job. I had no means to make money. I knew in Louisiana or in Mississippi, I would be making chump change and I would have had to put 2, now 3 children in daycare. Like my younger 2 were finally at school age. So before my youngest was born, I had split up with my husband a previous time and I had 2 children in daycare and it was like $800 a month in the South, like 20 years ago. So, her parents are still deeply involved in a cult, maybe not the one, but they still are. That's why she was pregnant same time as her mom. Her mom was pregnant with her? Wow. The Quiverful movement. Yeah. I mean, that's not exactly uncommon, especially if the parents started young and they have, a lot of children. They're still, able to produce children when their oldest can too, right? Like my youngest sister or my youngest sibling and my oldest sibling's daughter are 3 years apart. So they grew up almost like siblings or cousins than aunt and niece. Kendra and Josh, or Kendra and Joseph, or are you talking about Anna and Josh? I know, I keep saying Josh too, because why name all your children names with J? I don't understand it. So, and Joseph and Josh are very close. So I kept confusing those two. But, all I can say is, like I am bringing this, like I am trying to bring the perspective of what it's like to be in that cult as a woman, as a mother, and being someone who was essentially trapped as well. I found a way out. There's always a way out. Like, Anna could find a way out even with 7 children. It would be hard, but the whole entire world would help her if she decided to get out because they want her to be away from Josh so much. Like, I don't think she would have to beg for a dollar. Hey, BC. Hey, Papa J. Um, okay, Kendra and her mom got pregnant right after Kendra got married. Yeah. And so, like, I have compassion for Kendra. I really do, and I hope that it's a case of she um I'm not taking guests at this time, BC, thank you. Um I really hope that um when the investigation is concluded that we know enough to give her more of the benefit of the doubt. But it's so hard because, like, at what point do you say my kids' safety is more important than mine? Like, I will risk anything and everything to protect my children from someone who is doing harm, especially if it's a sexual nature, right? Um, I if Anna got out, she's got a house right now. I don't know who paid for it, but even if Jim Bob had paid for it, hopefully it's in her name. If it's not, the whole world would rally around her and she would not have to want her means to do anything. She has a puppy farm right now. She's making, money off of breeding puppies. Like, there's ways for her to support her children, and some of them are getting older. And so, like, I hope and believe that once her children are older, her options will be less limited. But Josh continues to deny the allegations, and according to the cult teachings, she's supposed to believe him, right? I mean, at some point you have to check your gut and go, well, could it be true? Like, why would the government go through all the expense of trying to set somebody up for no reason? I mean, that's a stupid question, but you have to at least think it, right? You have to start using some reasoning skills. You have to evaluate whether the person that you have been married to, who lied to you, who did things that were inappropriate with their sisters, oh, thank you, Pack, so much. Trigger warning, we're talking about the Duggars. If you can't handle this, I understand. Um, it's very heavy and we're talking about very heavy topics. So, um, yeah, I haven't been live in a while. I was on somebody else's panel the other night, but it's been a long time. Absolutely, absolutely. I understand, like, this can get very heavy, especially for survivors of fundamentalism and similar types of abuse, and I don't want to put anybody in a position where they're risking their own mental health. So, um oh, you are. Okay. Well, be safe, please. Anna is not exactly a saint, to be fair. She did try to insinuate Caleb. That's just, like, I don't think that was because Anna has a malicious intent. I think she just believed the story she was saying, and so she was going with the narrative that she was being told. Like, I don't think she was trying to do it because she doesn't believe in her husband. Like, I think she's full line sinker hung up on believing her husband in everything that Jim Bob says, or at least she's playing that part right now. Um Because as a woman in this cult, if you're going to get out ever, you are not going to discuss it with anybody that could put your escape in jeopardy. Um, so there's that. Does anybody have any questions, for me about my experience in IBLP? Any questions about like what's going on with the Duggars and how it's tied to the cult? Um, there's so many things I can talk about, but like, what are you interested in knowing in connection with this cult and where we're at today? 5 packs. Thank you for coming. I do not know the Bates. I can't make assumptions about other people's behavior, not knowing who they are and what they do, but all I can say, the question was, does the Bates have a problem similar to the Duggars? All I can say is that it is not uncommon for these problems to come out in the cult. It is not uncommon for there to be multiple people who are perpetrators in a family in this cult. Does it mean that every family has this problem? No. Every family wasn't as highly involved in it. Every family didn't, believe every single thing that Bill Gothard said. Every family didn't toe the line exactly. And there's like in any religious sect, you have people who are over here that follow everything and then over here who follow some things. I have a really good friend that was in high school with me, and her family was involved in IBLP. And as an adult, we reconnected after like 4 or 5 years having been out of the cult. And I was like, why are you not so damaged? Like, how did you escape so unscathed with your faith intact, Because at the time I was still like wrestling with the faith and everything. And I probably still am. I don't know. I don't know where I land right now, and I don't care. I don't care enough to figure it out right now. Um, but she had told us that like they used some of the materials, but like they didn't go to every conference and they didn't ascribe to every belief system that Bill Gothard had. So they kind of used it as like a supplement to what they were doing. And if it didn't line up with where they were, then they kind of threw it out. And I was like, oh my God, that would have been so amazing. you know, to have the option to go, well, maybe he's not right on this. I'm not going to follow him on this strain of thought. I don't know who Carver Bowers is. I'll be honest, I do not deep dive these families. I peripherally listen to Fundy Snark. Um I do not have time in my day or life to absorb myself with this. With the families involved in it, I catch news as it comes out. Like last year there was a case that went before the Texas Supreme Court. Two women are suing IBLP and Bill Gothard for playing a part in the abuse that they received at the hand of their father and brother. Like I said, multiple predators in a family is not uncommon. Um Investigators or instigators? Because if they were investigators, they would be turning off over a shit ton of materials to authorities to lock a ton of people away. Um, all of they're making money off of it. TLC is making so much money off of these weird family. I say weird, but these out of the norm families, and they're picking people who are willing to sell their story and promote their children on a reality television series. So, yeah. I mean, Um, do you believe the IBLP board should be investigated or at 100%? I mean, I'm not exactly sure like how legal that would work out, but IBLP and Bill Gothard are culpable for creating these people. Maybe they have no, they have not been because 2015 is when we knew about the stuff with Josh. They knew about it before 2015. The Duggars, I think, started in like 2005. So that was 10 years. And then you have shows. There's if you don't watch Slightly High Historian, she has a whole tithing to TLC playlist. And there are so many abusers that get on TLC. It's almost like a prerequisite at this point. Um, um, have another comment. The more conservative religious groups attract predators, just as predators are drawn to professions that give them access to vulnerable populations. That is part of it. But when you're talking about children who grew up in it, they had no choice but to be there. They didn't choose to be in that cult. So when you're talking about Josh and Joseph Duggar and their siblings and their spouses and everything, those aren't the people that were attracted as predators. They were cultivated and trained to be predators. You have, on the one hand, you have the teachings that create people like Josh and Joseph, and then on the other hand, you have, the women that are typically set up to receive that abuse and become victims because of the way they teach the gender roles and the patriarchal system and the extreme submission of women to either your father or your husband. You can never be outside of a male's authority in that cult. That's why you have the whole stay at home daughter movement. Like Sister Wives, they played the role for a while, trying to make polygamy normal, and that blew up. I mean, because that doesn't work, because it's not healthy, well-adjusted men that go into that religion either, uh, or pick multiple wives. Um, these religious situations confirm the tendencies of the predators within those groups. I mean, I would say again, yes, I agree when it comes to an adult who joins. But if you were born into it, you know nothing else besides what's in that cult. And you are, like they say, raise your children in the way they should go and they will not depart from it, right? They start training from the time you are 6 months old in this cult for immediate obedience and to obey without question. And if you don't obey immediately, it's the same as disobedience. If you obey with an attitude, it's still considered disobedience. So it's extremely controlling, and a young developing mind is not capable of making the rationalizations that it needs to filter that out as garbage. That's all they know. It's not until you get exposed to other people and other things that you start to realize that what you grew up with was not normal. And when you are conditioned from the ripe age of whenever you can start reasoning, and even before, because the wisdom booklets were taught from, like, the babies would be playing around while the older children got taught. So they were absorbing all of this from the time they were toddlers. You fundamentally change the way somebody's brain develops by what information they are exposed to or the lack of information they are exposed to. When it comes to adults, I agree. It just basically um so here's what I've seen the most. A mother who is abused in her childhood gets involved in homeschooling. She starts getting around other families, and then they start talking about this Bill Gothard person, and they start talking about this homeschool curriculum, especially when you're talking about the late 90s, early 2000s, when the homeschool curriculum was very limited, which ATI is no longer a homeschool curriculum, it's now a Bible study. So that should tell you how great it was. These women who were abused their whole entire life as a child, they're raising children. They're scared that what happened to them is going to happen to their children. Bill Gothard and IBLP say if you raise your children this way, they will be safe. Nothing bad will happen to them. They will become pillars of our society and get into the most prominent positions in every walk of life. If you're a man, if you're a woman, you support that man. And so by proxy, you're, I don't know, as valued. I don't, um, and so they draw the women in, and then they get their husbands involved because the husband is the head of the home. The husband is allured by the fact that he gets to make all the decisions and he can trump his wife. So he sees an opportunity for all the bickering to stop. Because when you have an abused wife who was abused in her childhood and hasn't healed that trauma, she is susceptible to being controlled. And then you you either get people who say, well, this is kind of weird once you get into it, and they pull back from it, or it feeds the man's ego and he becomes a god in his own image, like in his own head, and he starts abusing everyone around him because the teachings teach you to abuse. That when I was going through the men's manual, I never ever thought that I would see the amount of control in black and white words being laid out for the men to, I need to adjust my position, sorry. To control almost every single aspect of their wife in their children's lives, down to what scriptures they're reading, what friends they have. It was in writing in the men's manual. I on the red play button, I have a playlist of the men's manual that I've already covered, and I will get back to it one day when, like, I'm starting to feel better. I've made some changes, and I'm hoping that that means that I'll have the energy to do some editing and recording. So I'm kind of slowly getting there. Um, Groups with high obedience and patriarchy are just ripe with abuse. Yeah, I mean, it preys on the vulnerable, and then it feeds the people who have the underlying desire for power, and that's what happens to the men. I mean, I'm not, and there are men who are victims of this. Not all of the men were these ogres and abusers and stuff. And, you know, mostly when it comes to the children, right? The adults who joined as an adult, like I was an adult barely, you know, I was ADHD, thought I was a failure. They gave me a checklist of how I could make my life livable. And I was like, sure, let's do this. And it took almost 20 years for me to realize, like, this is not sustainable. I cannot live like this. This is not what I was built for. So, and if, like, I could have taken anything it was my choice to marry who I did, right? I could have received all of the abuse and dealt with it, and but when I saw how it was affecting my children, like on a huge scale, and like step back, and like I didn't know what abuse was. Like, other than physical abuse, when I got married, I didn't know what abuse was. I didn't know what consent was. Um and so somebody, I believe it was my older sister, had sent me like checklists of all the different types of abuse. And when I tell you, spiritual, emotional, some physical, he never laid a hand on me, but there was threats. Um Financial, emotional. The amount of things I could check off on those lists was scary. Extremely scary. And that's what woke me up to what I was actually experiencing. And then I started seeing the effects of it on my kids. And then one of my children, my middle child, is autistic. And so there is no corporal discipline out the autism. And that was the answer, was they just need to be disciplined. And there was no understanding of neurodivergence in this cult. I was in IBLP and IFB, and in either one of them, of neurodivergence and how discipline affects those children differently, and um the long-term effects of corporal punishment on children. And so when you start looking at studies and how these things are proven to harm children, and you look at a list that says you're being abused, you cannot put those scales back over your eyes. You just can't. You can't go back from that. And I pulled the plug. I got myself out of there, and that was in 2011. By 2015, all of the stuff had come out about Josh Duggar and Bill Gothard. Bill Gothard was removed from office, I believe, in 2014. So, and my younger brother was part of a website called Homeschoolers Anonymous, and that also around that same time was when Recovering Grace came out. So I spent time on those websites reading the stories, and I had absolutely no idea the amount of abuse that was happening in the cult. It it was it was devastating. But then it was like, oh, 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 yeah, that makes sense. Like, when you look at the teachings and you see how that manipulation resulted in the abuse that it did. And it was all about control. It was nothing but trying to control other human beings, and putting the outcome of children as the responsibility of parents, to the point that if their children messed up in any way, that was a reflection on the parents. So the parents controlled more, because the parents didn't want anything to be out in the public, you know, that could put the parents in a bad light. He's almost 90 years old. I don't think he could. Hypothetical question: if Bill Gothard would run for United States president, is there a chance he could win? I doubt it. I don't think, I just don't think he has that big of a following anymore. Um, and he's not charismatic enough to hoodwink people again after everything that he's done. He's literally a creepy old man. Like, I know what I'm saying, and it sounds ridiculous that it could be even more apparent than what we have now, but no way. Not a chance. So I just hope he lives long enough to see the end of that suit that is coming out of, I don't remember if it was out of Texas, because I know it was at the Texas Supreme Court, but that's, jurisdiction. Hey Kit, good to see you. Name recognitions is what wins many elections, and they were forcing Trump to on us since the 80s. Yeah. Yeah. Ooh. Let me take a breath. Anybody got any more questions? I guess what I'm curious about is like the outcome if they truly are investigating the whole entire Duggar compound. Like, wow, awesome, about time. What was your experience with SM Davis teaching comparatively to Bill Gothard? It was synonymous with it. It was like just like they promoted the Pearls, they also promoted SM Davis. I remember listening as a older teen, early adult to like some courtship stuff with SM Davis. Um, but he was not like a prominent figure in our circles other than just like the courtship stuff. Like that was kind of like his influence on our circles in the IFB and IBLP. That's why I think this has been planned for a very long time. He's a real estate guy. Is there a reason? Um, yeah, I'm not gonna get into that much. I just my brain can't go there. The Jesus and John Wayne book is, definitely interesting, and I will have some more videos posted of reading that next week. Um, I think he was just an attention whore. Like that's he loves attention, and so every opportunity he had to get attention, he used it because he was not a successful businessman, you know? So, yeah, SM Davis was basically the guy who talked about successful couples. Yeah, he's an actor. Maybe a terrible one, but maybe. Like I watched The Apprentice like 3 or 4 episodes and I was like, "Oh my god, this guy is like way out there." Like, "Oh, I don't like him." Um, where else are you streaming right now? Also on TikTok. So, and thank you, Apostate Sisters. I am glad I am out too. I am glad I pulled that plug and went down that drain. Watched an interview where he said, "My first choice was film, but there is too much luck involved with film." Oh my god, of course. No, you have to be good at it. Was not good. Oh man. Oh, yeah. He's just an attention whore. That's all he is. That's that's all I can say about it. I wish I could pay him no mind. Um, so yeah, the purity teachings that, let's talk about that for a minute. Like the way that purity was taught in IBLP is part of the reason we are here today with the whole Duggar situation. And these people are a representative of the worst families in that cult. They're not every family was that bad, right? Oh, thank you, Apostate Sisters. Appreciate the follow. When I get off, I'll make sure I'm following you back. Um, and uh Yeah, purity culture. Have you seen Josh's statement via his yes, I did. And I really don't want to talk about it because I might have an aneurysm. So my blood pressure is already affected enough. So if you don't want to hear me yelling and ranting, probably shouldn't talk about it. So that gives you any indication of how I feel about it. No, it's fine. I appreciate you asking. Um let's just lay that boundary right now. Like I will not be talking about the delusional Josh Duggar statement. Um and then think I'll talk about Amy Duggar's statement. I haven't read hers yet, so let's do that. Um let's see, where is her statement? In light of the recent allegations involved my cousin Joseph Duggar, I am sickened, heartbroken, and deeply angry. My first thoughts are with the victim, a child who deserved to be safe, protected, and surrounded by people she could trust. She continues. The courage it took for her to come forward, especially after years of carrying something so heavy, cannot be overstated. That bravery deserves to be honored above all else. Oh, that's a really nice statement. Um, Anna, 39, says she was utterly shocked to hear about these allegations and Joseph's arrest. However, at the same time, I am not surprised that another alleged predator has emerged from this toxic system. Add. For years, I have spoken out about the importance of truth, accountability, and protecting children, even when it meant going against my own family, Amy says. Family ties should never equal automatic trust or access, especially when it comes to the safety of children. When an image is protected over truth and silence is chosen over accountability, it creates an environment where abuse can thrive. Wow, that's good. Um, I have worked hard to break cycles in both my extended family and my immediate family, she says. My boundaries are in place for a reason, and I have used my voice to expose the darkness and advocate for the protection of children. A journey I wrote about in Holy Disruptor, shattering the shiny facade by getting louder with the truth as a way to help others recognize harmful patterns, speak the truth, and find their voice in toxic systems. Amy says she is praying for the victim and her family as they walk through what is sure to be an incredibly difficult road. She adds, recognizing that we did not yet know the full picture. I'm also praying for Joseph's wife Kendra as she begins to process this and for the protection of their children. I'm praying for eyes to be opened above all. I pray that justice will be served to the fullest. That's a good one. I'm I haven't always appreciated Amy Duggar King, but that was a good statement. Um, Victim blaming is why we are where we are with the Duggars. Damn counseling seminar teachings. Yes. It all that's why I'm here, kid. Trying to tell people it's the cult, it's the cult, it's the cult. It's not just Jim Bob Duggar. It's the cult, it's the cult, it's the cult. 4 of the Duggar siblings have expressed their statements against Josh after his conviction. Yes. Jill was the first, then Jessa. I think she deleted hers, possibly after she found out Kendra was arrested. Who was the other ones? Um, I don't remember the other two. I don't know who the other two are. Um, I Jill was the first one, so I read that one, and to me, it read like Derek was the one who made the statement with some input from Jill. Ginger, okay. Ginger Volo labeled his behavior as horrific, evil. I imagine she would. Like that's not doesn't surprise me. Um so Jill, Jessa, Ginger. And then Amy. Is there another one that another sibling that made a statement? Jason. Okay. I haven't seen Jason's statement or Ginger Bolo's whole statement. Do y'all want me to read those statements, Joanna? Okay. Um, so that's 5. Jill, Jessa, Ginger, Jason, and Joanna. It's not the cult, though that is one of the worst manifestations of what do you mean it's not the cult? It's not just no, it's I didn't say it was just the cult. It's I think the cult is the root of it though, because without the cult, I guess it's really hard to say with that family because that family had a predator in it before the cult. There Amy Duggar King exposed in her book that her grandfather was a predator. So, you know, without the cult, would it have, it's yeah, Kit said on TikTok, it's never just the cult. But you can't have these conversations outside of the cult being involved. Is kind of what I'm going at. Like you can't say it's just Jim Bob Duggar. Um have you read about the Giselle Pellicotte abuse situation in France? Is that the one with the multiple people and she was like not inebriated, but forcible. I don't know what I can say without being canceled here. Or get my live restricted. Um, she was given things to ingest, not of her own free will, and then the husband, um, normal men ended up committing these heinous crimes. Yes, yes, that's the one. That's I think yeah. Um, because what? Because because men who get the opportunity to do things that are unsavory. Um, yes, thank you. And so like that's that's like I don't know what these men's upbringing were, and they can't be like patriarchy society is part of the problem too, right? Like the more that people push against patriarchy, the more the patriarchy tries to clamp down and control. Um, the cults create the mindset that excuses it. It does, but it also when you're talking about like children who were raised in it, they create the whole entire belief system that like makes it. Like you if you as a child were not exposed to that, there are chances that you don't become that, right? But there's also like you don't have to have the cult to be a predator, but when a predator was in this cult, you can't take those teachings and separate it from what happened and say that that had nothing to do with it. Um yes, they will absolutely automatically cover for other men and their misbehavior. Um Robert Mueller. Who is that? I don't that name sounds familiar. I just don't know why. It's just a sliding scale. I mean, like the cult just allows men to feed their egos. Oh, need to do a puzzle. Do do do. Whoops. Try it again. I missed. There we go. Close enough. Um, if a family is raised with a father who respects the mother and daughter as human beings equal to him, that does not happen. I haven't heard of any examples of that, so I can't disagree with you there. Thank you for sharing out the live. I appreciate that. If you have a chance and you don't mind, the Daily Heart Me on the TikToks, and make sure you hit that like button on YouTube, please and thank you. Mueller was supposed to be recommended Trump's prosecution during his first administration. Oh yeah. Do you think that Kendra will get blamed in some way? And do you think that Jim Bob will help her? Ooh, that's a big one. Man, Hannah. Um, she's been arrested. She has charges of false imprisonment and enabling. Oh, thank you for the heart, the whatever, the roses. I appreciate that. And what was that question? Sorry. Blamed. So, like, I think we need to definitely sit back and wait for more information on Kendra to see what her involvement was in those situations for enabling the abuse of minors, I think it was, and or endangering minors and false imprisonment. Like, false imprisonment's pretty serious to me. Like, I think they're just misdemeanors from what I read. Um they gave her parents a whole house. Yeah, he's also a real estate agent, so I don't know how much that has to do with. I don't know what the reason for that was, or how like grandiose of a gesture that was. A study showed that a study showed that the if they are raised okay, if children are raised when a mother and daughters are treated as equal human beings, that abuse doesn't happen. I mean, awesome. Would you mind if you have a link to that study to link it in the comments? I would love to look at that because I think that's important information that would be pertinent to my channel and um the case that the cult is part of the problem. Um Am I right to say that Joseph has been charged in both Florida and Arkansas, and Kendra has been only charged in Arkansas? Yes, that is the case. So the charges in Arkansas are not related, from what we understand, to what happened in Florida. Those are two separate incidences. So what I imagined happened was that when a parent is being charged with something like that, they interview children and any children they may have access to, possibly potentially. So um depends on what they found when they talk to people, and I don't want to assume that it's their children that this is about, but it's, I mean, what other children did they have access to? A lot, because they have a big family, so who knows. I saw a long video where they talked about how normal seeming men would cover and raise boys who also abuse women. I mean, this is the thing. When you're talking about abuse, the abusers always act differently in public than they do in private. Um in this context, yeah. And but you can always see that even in public, these men who are abusers do not treat their women like people who don't abuse. When they're out in public, they will not usually expose their most vile behavior, but there's patterns that you can see if you know what goes on in private, if you see it in public. Like, if you've experienced it, you're like, oh, I wonder what's happening to that person behind closed doors, because if they're doing that out in public, it's worse in private. Judges who treat a teenage boy with a slap on the wrist after much bad behavior. Yeah, that's a problem. That's the patriarchy, you know? What happened in the big house? How many victims, both boys and girls? How many abusers are there? Who knows? And so I saw a video, it's probably kind of what prompted me to be on here. I thought it was in the news, but I don't think it is yet. A creator who knows someone close to the Duggars, said that CPS is investigating the big house, the whole compound. Like, I don't know what that means. Like, I don't know how many kids live on that property. I don't know how big the property is, like how many houses there are, who lives in the house. Like, I don't know any of that. I don't follow them that close. Um, how much cover-ups have Ma and Pa Duggar? Oh my goodness. The list is probably as long as Bill Gothard's. Like, seriously, because they are highly involved in IBLP. And if it was happening in their own family, they could potentially be part of cover ups in other families. So, like, this doesn't just stop with their family. Like, that's why I'm like, it's the cult. um, More than we can probably count, right, Kit? I mean, it's not just their kids either that they probably covered up. It's really not. It doesn't stop because they were in a position of leadership or um prominence. Like, they were a prominent family because of their exposure on TV. They were held to this celebrity status in IBLP, and so they could have been one of the couples that people went to when they were struggling because they had a kid that was struggling, so they could advise other families. I mean, they downplayed what Josh did even to their daughters so much. So how much and what were the others? Yeah, exactly, Hannah, exactly, 100%. Because I mean, Kit, you know how it worked in the cult is, you had a family in an area, and if you had more IBLP people who were in that area, they were the go-to guru couple of IBLP. So they would send other people for counseling with this couple who had an abysmal record raising children. Oh man. Not to discount the work that Jill and Jessa or Jill and Ginger are doing. I don't know about Jessa. Um, like, I feel like out of all of them, Jill is the most deconstructed and healed out of all of them. Um, Ginger still in some type of cult adjacent to IBLP. Um, there is a male subculture where they blame promiscuous women as the root of all evil. They think all birth should be accompanied by a DNA test. And while there certainly would expose the unfaithful, um, that subculture was in IBLP too, right? Like, the women were blamed for anything that happened that was bad, whether it be within the family, that be whether it for the husbands, like if the husband failed, it was the wife's fault. If the husband stepped out on his wife, it was the wife's fault. If the husband abused the children, it was the wife's fault, Like, she wasn't in control, she had no power, but it was her fault. Expose the unfaithful wives. A universal database such as this would probably end up linking them to babies of fatherless babies. Yes. Oh, what you mean to harm women will come back to bite you in the ass. Absolutely. Yes, Kit says, yes, they definitely blame girls and women for any problems. So personal story, when my she tempted him, exactly. Exactly. And we are called Jezebels if I mean, this shirt would be tempting for someone to do what they want with me, and I would be blamed for it. The what was she wearing? Let's not talk about ever. Let's not talk to boys about controlling their impulses ever and how to respect women. Let's not talk about that. That's never that's never in the equation. You appreciate that. Um, but yeah. Oh, yeah. So personal story. Okay. So was married for 3-ish years. And within 6 months, my husband at the time, had gotten back into rugs and was hiding it from me. And we were living in a rural part of Louisiana and traveling about an hour to Houma, Louisiana for church. And at the time, he was smoking a blunt before he would drive us down there. I had a toddler and an infant at the time. Or I was pregnant. Like, it was either when I was pregnant or when I had the baby, my second. And it was stressing me out. He would not let me drive. I was like, I can tell you're altered. Let me drive. Would not let me drive. So I asked the pastor to come and talk with us, and I presented the problem to him. He's hiding it from me. He's doing it. He is not sober much of the day. He does it before he leaves for work. He does it while he's at work. He does it when he comes home from work. Does it right before he goes to bed. And also, we were dirt ass poor, and I had a very limited budget for groceries. And there was also like things breaking in our house and on my vehicle that weren't getting fixed because his priority was the green devil's lettuce. If it was recreational, I might have been able to but no, he depended on it to function and live. Um, and I was in an independent fundamentalist Baptist church, and that was not okay to be doing. So I called the pastor over. I sat down with my husband at the time in front of me with the pastor and said, "This is what is going on. I am so anxious. I don't like getting in the vehicle with him. He is scaring me. I feel like our lives are in jeopardy because he is driving altered." How often do you read the Bible? Are you praying? That was his questions to me. Did he say anything to my husband? You really need to work on, maybe quitting. I honestly don't even know. I think I just blocked out anything he might have said to my husband. I don't remember him saying anything to him at the time to hold him accountable. Because me reading the Bible has anything to do with it. Exactly, Kit. Exactly. Um, Let me text my husband. I need more water. I did a bunch of recording this morning, and so my voice is kind of not used to talking this much. I need more water. Um, whew, I'm getting worked up. So yeah, I mean, it was my fault because I didn't pray enough to change my ex-husband. I didn't read the Bible enough with a toddler and either pregnant or a toddler. I mean, my oldest two are 15 months apart. So glad you can make it. Um, and oh, thank you for the heart me. Appreciate that. You know, it was, creativity is help me type mentality. You know, the husband can do no wrong, and whatever he's doing, you found a new IBLP survivor. Cool, awesome. Kit's in here. I don't know if y'all have met. They're also an IBLP survivor. Um, okay, cool, awesome, love it. Thank you. If anybody is an IBLP survivor or interested in, having conversations about the cult and religious deconstruction, Bree is amazing. She does lives all the time, and she has various topics that she talks about. Hey, Sacred Scars, good to see you, man. And love you. And that's the live I was on the other day, and we had a fucking blast. It was awesome. Um, but yeah, it was. God, when I read created to be his helpmeet, I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And I wasn't even married at the time. It was like before I had even gone to headquarters, so I hadn't even met my ex-husband at the time. Um, and even then, I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I'm equipped to do this. Like, submit to your husband. He's in charge of all the decisions. Like, hmm. Wow, that's bonkers. Can't believe that's what they asked you. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Apostate sisters. That was a common question. How much have you been reading your Bible? How much have you been praying for everything that I brought to the pastors? Absolutely zero accountability for my ex-husband. Mm. So, I forgot what I was talking about. Oh man. Oh, um, never is for men. No. There's never accountability for men. When I was in headquarters, Marcy and I talked about I had a co-host when we first started this. She's been going through some life stuff, so she hasn't been able to join us. Hopefully one day she can join us again. But in some of our first season 1 and season 2 of the podcast, we talk about headquarters and when there was ever an issue, like you weren't supposed to be in a relationship. But if there was this girl is just like crazy. It's bothering me looking at it. Um, Whenever there was an issue, the girl would be sent home, and then the boy would be counseled, and would get a pass because Bill Gothard was abusing women and young girls and grooming young girls. So, that tracks. Oh, I'm from Worldwide Church of God cult. I'm always blown away by the similarities of control methods among Christian cults. Yes. So, I don't know if all of y'all have heard about this, but when I realized that IBLP was a cult, it was because I was watching the Leah Remini's Scientology documentary, and I was like, oh, so yeah, that's how I realized it. Because when you're faced with similarities, and like, other than trapping you on a boat and sending you out to sea, I mean, it was pretty similar. High control groups tend to be very similar across the board. Yep. Oop. No, Brie, that almost killed me the other night when you told me that your mom watched and and she joined the IBLP cult. Well, here's the thing is like you're not going to see it when you first come in because Marcy and I talked about this on the podcast. It's a slow boil. They get you in with the promise of safety. The flags were gray for her. She turned them red flags to green, girl. Um, you know, they get you with that promise of safety. They have the special magic formula that is going to make your family turn out to be a stellar family and a pillar of the community and your children are going to be successful and blah 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 blah. Hey, Hunter. Yeah, I think we need to have a talk though. I heard some disconcerting news about a job you may have. Sir. I won't blast you on live, but I hope what I heard was either a lie or no longer true. Curious, did you ever have to deal with fans who are avid supporters of IBLP? Not personally. I do not have a big enough following to be on anyone's radar. I have seen um I have seen what happens to people. Like, after Shiny Happy People, there was this Mormon lady. Um, yes, yes, I am. That she was going to do a counter documentary to the Shiny Happy People, and she started harassing the members that, well, the people who were on Shiny Happy People. I don't know if y'all have heard of Joe McLean, but he kind of connected with the survivors, and it was his mother. And if you go to his page, there's probably it was right after Shiny Happy People, so almost like 2 years ago. Um, there's some stuff about his mom in that anti Shiny Happy People documentary. I love you again. We can be friends. Okay. All is well. We're all good. It's good to see you. I don't know. I haven't been on that side of, like, I use my other account for that group, so I don't get crossover with people. Um because it's a whole different group of people. Hello, Bridget. How are you? Oh, that Bridget. Hey, Bridget. I was like, Bridget who? Now I know who you are. Um, what was I saying? I don't know. I lost my train of thought. Um, so Apostate Sisters. I actually have not heard of Worldwide Church of God. Um, where did that originate from? I'm curious. Um, I did comment on her if she could investigate the JD case. She'll only do that if Josh contact her. Really? She is not worth getting involved with, is my advice to you. I wouldn't get on her radar. Her own son thinks she's wackadoodle. Tired from cheer comp with the little one today. Oh, how fun! Yes, we are good. We are hanging in there and dealing with crazy as always, but yeah. Um we should message and catch up one day. It's been too long. Um but yeah, otherwise, we're surviving. Oh man. I hope y'all are well. I hope your is your adventure still going? Are you still on the course to have your dream project? Yeah, I'm trying not to spend too much energy talking about them, but there's just so much going on, and it's hard because I gotcha. It's really hard because I am seeing so many people, like, it's the family, the family, the family, the family, the family, and not a lot of people are talking about the cult connection to where we're at today with the Duggars. And so, like, it's kind of pissing me off a little, but I get it. I get it. You wouldn't know if you weren't in it. Um, so I just felt like I can lend to the conversation a little bit more insight into how the cult connects to this and how it has gotten us here. And you know, the whole fact that Kendra got arrested is like blown me away. And number one, it blows me away because there's accountability and it's even extending to the wife, which is not normal. Um, sorry, dealing with stuff. Um, and just like if this is the the can that opens the can of worms, right? Like if it's a top that blows it up and like exposes everything, it would be amazing. I would be so excited. Um but that sucks because someone had to come forward and was abused to get us here, you know? Um it started as a radio church. Oh, if God in the 1930s. Main guy was Herbert W. Armstrong. It still exists in many offshoots. Okay, I am gonna have to look into that because I love looking at like I think it's interesting to learn about other cults. Um, yes, Kendra threw me for a loop. Thanks. um, hopefully, way more of them start as well. I hope they all go down, all of them. Jim, Bob, and Michelle. To any child that was any of their children that were involved in any type of abuse, I hope they all go down. Um, it's just I mean, like, they have 19 kids and like 30, 40, 50 grandkids. I don't know. That's that's a whole fucking town in some places. So many people. Seriously don't understand how JB and Michelle have not been caught yet. It's wild. Systems in place to protect them. Their celebrity status, money, after TLC, they started making money, and he's got a lot of pull in the community, and he ran for office. Did he ever serve? I don't even remember if he served, but I know he ran for office. Mike Huckabee is another reason that the Duggars have not been held accountable. I'm pretty sure he's dead. God don't rest his soul. I don't know. Hope he's burning in hell. Him and James Dobson. And hopefully one day Bill Gothard. Jim Bob did try to run for senator after Josh's conviction or around. He also did before because the first picture that they had of their family before the TLC was of them going to vote for him. So that was early 2000s. Yes, I appreciated learning about IBLP as well. Oh, well, I'm glad you're here and listening to me rant and rave about it. He served in the Arkansas State Senate. Thank you, Katie. I appreciate that. I thought he had gotten elected, but I couldn't remember. House, not Senate. Okay, Arkansas House. Okay. Yeah. So, politician, schmoozing, rubbing elbows, lining his pockets with insider trading, I'm sure. Would be interesting to see a DNA representation of the town. Mike Huckabee is presently the U.S. ambassador to Oh, okay. He's still alive? Oh, awesome. I forgot he existed for a moment. Of course he is. Of course he's the ambassador to Israel. Of course. Yeah. So you just wonder after a while how small those circles are and how connected every politician is to the Look him up if you need to pick me up. Huckabee looks terrible. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's see. Oh. Oh, stupid X. I don't have X. You're not gonna let me see it anyway, so I don't know why I'm even trying. Um, doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. I just need a picture. Show me a picture. Images. Ooh! Yeah, he does not look great. Looks like a freaking chipmunk. Mm. Alright, guys, does anybody have any other questions? I think I'm about to get off. I've been sitting here for quite a while, and I probably need to go lay down. And I have some editing to do for next week. So, yeah, I'm gonna try and not talk about the Duggars. Thank you, Kate. I appreciate it. Um, man, whirlwind of a week. Whirlwind of a week. And just, what cannot get off of my mind is the children. The children that have been affected is what just really, really upsets me. And it's it's time for children to be the priority and not adults who had choices and who made bad ones and horrible ones. Have you ever been to the IBLP unofficial Facebook group that actually defended the ideology? Don't know if I've been to that one. I know Bill Gothard has a page. I, most of the groups that I'm in are survivor groups, and I don't necessarily spend a whole lot of time on Facebook anymore. So I'm a chronic TikTok user. um, but I mean, there are people who defend the teachings. There are people who are still fans of Bill Gothard, and that's gonna be reality. Some people will not believe the truth if it smacked them in the face. Um, oh, you've been in the group? Oh, wow. Interesting. Wow. Absolutely, apostate. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you all being here today and asking questions and talking to me and helping me get my frustrations out. Um Appreciate y'all. And I will see y'all next time I randomly decide to have a live. Y'all have a great weekend. And if anyone has not told you today or ever, I am proud of you. And we can get through this together.